Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the SASB standards for iron and steel producers to uncover the massive unseen human and environmental costs hidden right behind heavy industry. Okay, let's just jump right in and ask a critical question that forces us to look past just profit margins and financial statements. When we think of steel, we usually just picture the final products, right? Towering skyscrapers, massive bridges, the frames of the cars we drive. But what is the actual true cost of that steel? Well, the SASB framework, which is now part of the IFRS Foundation, requires companies to disclose sustainability-related financial information. And it turns out, the health of a company's workforce and the integrity of its supply chain are literally just as vital to its long-term viability as its revenue. So today, we're exploring two crucial pillars: exactly how the industry measures physical safety on the factory floor, and the massive global footprint of its raw materials. We're starting our journey right on the floor of the steel plant. And let me tell you, this is a visceral, intense microenvironment defined by extreme heat and massive, unforgiving equipment. Producing iron and steel in mills and foundries is incredibly intense. Whether you're looking at a basic oxygen furnace operating over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit or an electric arc furnace, the baseline reality of this job is deeply hazardous. Workers are dealing with molten metal, massive swinging cranes, industrial-scale moving parts. It's an environment where just one single mistake can be absolutely catastrophic. The SASB documentation doesn't mince words here at all. It explicitly states that given the high temperatures and heavy machinery involved, worker injuries and fatalities are a matter of serious concern. The standard acknowledges that this industry historically has relatively high fatality rates, which absolutely demands a rigorous, uncompromising safety culture. Because, beyond the totally tragic human toll, worker injuries and fatalities lead to huge regulatory penalties, plummeting worker morale, lost productivity, and soaring healthcare costs. It's a massive operational risk that simply has to be quantified. So, to manage these severe risks, standardized metrics like TIR and fatality rates act as a literal scorecard of human lives and physical safety on the factory floor. Companies are required to openly disclose these exact rates. And the total recordable incident rate, or TIR, isn't just about minor scrapes. Under the standard, an injury is recordable if it results in days away from work, restricted work, medical treatment beyond basic first aid, or loss of consciousness. To make sure these numbers are perfectly comparable across the whole industry, they calculate these rates based on a strict baseline of 200,000 hours worked. To put that into perspective, that represents exactly 100 full-time workers putting in 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year. It completely levels the playing field so we can all see exactly who is running a safe plant and who isn't. Now, what's really fascinating here is the standard's emphasis on tracking the near miss. It proves that tracking the disasters that almost happened is treated as just as crucial as tracking the actual injuries. Think about what a near-miss frequency rate actually means on the ground. A near-miss is an unplanned chain of events that didn't result in an injury or damage this time, but easily could have under slightly different circumstances. By forcing companies to classify and report these close calls, the standard pushes the whole industry to be proactive. You don't wait for a tragedy to fix a faulty crane. You track the near misses to identify the unseen vulnerabilities before your system actually fails. But here's a real game changer. The standard completely closes a massive loophole. Companies are required to track these exact same safety rates for both their direct employees and contract employees, meaning they cannot hide their operational hazards behind outsourced labor. This is a huge distinction. A direct employee is anyone on the payroll, but you also have to report incidents for contract employees, people not on your payroll but who you supervise, like independent contractors or temp workers. If they're in your work environment operating your equipment, their safety is 100% on your scorecard. There are literally no loopholes for outsourced danger. All right, let's widen our lens a bit. Because the hazards of steel production don't actually start in the foundry. They begin deep in the earth. To truly grasp the sustainability profile of a producer, we have to step completely outside the walls of the manufacturing plant and trace the materials all the way back to their origin point. When we zoom out to the macro level using the SASB framework, we see that supply chain management is a heavily weighted metric right alongside heavy hitters like greenhouse gas emissions and water management. The reporting required here is incredibly comprehensive, ranging from Scope 1 emissions to air quality pollutants like carbon monoxide. But having supply chain management firmly categorized under discussion and analysis, that proves a company's responsibility doesn't just begin when the delivery truck arrives at their gate. It extends globally to everywhere they source their materials. And the critical raw inputs they're sourcing are iron ore and coking coal. These are the absolute bedrock of steel production, but acquiring them requires highly resource-intensive extraction processes. Most steel producers don't actually mine their own ore, they purchase it. But without iron ore and coking coal, those basic oxygen furnaces simply cannot run. Get this, it takes nearly 2 tons of these raw materials just to produce a single ton of steel. That makes securing a massive, reliable supply chain the literal lifeblood of the industry. But digging all that up triggers a massive ripple effect of environmental and social risks, disrupting local ecosystems and communities far beyond the steel mill. The standards point out that mineral extraction often has substantial adverse impacts. We're talking about potential community protests, terrible local labor conditions, and sweeping damage to fragile ecosystems. And from a strictly business perspective, these are direct, measurable risks. If a mining operation is shut down due to regulatory penalties or a severe environmental incident, the steel producer faces immediate supply disruptions for their most critical inputs. So, to manage these sweeping, chaotic outdoor risks, producers have to proactively track their supply chains through a strict regimen of screening, conduct codes, and independent audits. The standard specifically requires companies to discuss their policies for managing these exact environmental and social risks. How do they use screening to choose suppliers? How do they enforce codes of conduct? And crucially, what about audits? Are they just doing internal checks, or are they bringing in independent third-party auditors to verify that suppliers aren't engaging in environmentally damaging practices? This rigorous checking system is absolutely essential to building a truly resilient supply chain. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you pondering a final, profound question about the true hidden cost of the modern infrastructure around us. The SASB standards show us that every single ton of steel carries a ledger of human sweat, vital safety metrics, and global environmental impact. So the next time you cross a steel bridge or look up at a high-rise, think about the rigorous tracking of near misses on the factory floor and the complex global web of raw materials it took to build it. Are the everyday products we rely on worth the hidden hazards we've just uncovered? It's a complex equation for sure, but thanks to these standards, the real cost is finally coming into focus. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to decode the hidden structures of our world.